What do people regret at the end of their lives? Researchers and clinicians have looked at this. When people are given this space to reflect honestly, the regrets are rarely about not working harder, not achieving more. They're about how they lived. Not spending enough time with the people they loved, not allowing themselves to be happy, living in a way that didn't feel true to them, missing moments while chasing what they thought mattered. And at the same time, when you look at how people describe their lives now, a surprisingly small percentage would say they feel truly content, not just happy for a moment, but settled or grounded at peace with where they are. Recently, I found myself reflecting on this. I don't think we ask ourselves this question often enough. What actually matters in life? There are so many things that I want to do. I've got goals. There's always the next goal, the next level, the next thing. But it got me thinking, if I'm not careful, I'm at risk of missing the life that's already in front of me. Maybe that's you too. You're doing what you're supposed to do. You're showing up, you're building, you're working. But there's this quiet feeling, there's this angst, this feeling of not being settled. You never arrive. Fulfillment and contentment is always a little further ahead. I've been thinking, what does this actually do to us? I got my physician hat now because I'm thinking, is there something else besides this feeling? Is there something medical, clinical that happens to us when we live this way? That constant sense of not yet, the inability to feel like we're ever enough. What impact, if any, is it having to our health? It turns out that there's a real connection between how content we feel in our lives and our health, with some studies suggesting an association between contentment and how long we actually live. So today, let's pause to really reflect and look at our lives and ask ourselves a simple question. Am I really living? Welcome to Fuller Living, your space for empowerment, inspiration, and practical health nuggets. Here you'll find relatable guidance that fits your everyday life as you journey to a fuller and healthier you. I'm your host, Dr. Ashitey. Let's dig in. Welcome back to Fuller Living. As always, I am so glad you're here. Wherever you are, whether you're driving, getting ready for your day, maybe you're taking a moment to yourself, I want to thank you for pausing with me to do something great for your health. I want you to settle in a bit because today's conversation is an important one. I truly believe it's going to change someone's life. We've been talking a lot about health on this podcast. We've talked about conditions like diabetes, heart disease, high blood pressure, you name it. We've talked about habits as well. We've talked about your environment. We've talked about identity. We talked about goals and what it takes to build a healthier life. But today, I want to slow down and not just look at what we're building, but look at how we're actually living. Because that is very important as well. That's the whole point, right? Fuller living. Here's a patient story I want to share with you. It stuck with me for years. He had done everything right, or so he thought. My patient had worked so hard his entire life. He built a stable life for himself and his family. But here's the thing, he was gone all the time. There was always another level of stability or success he was trying to achieve. And then one day, she was gone. His wife was gone, just like that, no warning. She passed from a brief illness. And this is what he told me. He looked at me with tears in his eyes and said, I'll never forget these words. I thought I had more time. I was working so hard to build a life for us, and I missed it. Catch that? He was working so hard to build the life, but he missed the very life he was trying to build. And that stuck and stayed with me for years. Here's the thing. This isn't rare. When people reflect on their lives at the end or even just in moments of clarity, the regrets are often the same. We regret not being present. We regret working too much, waiting too long to enjoy what we actually had. And even now, when we look at people in the middle of their lives, a large percent of people would say that they don't really feel content. Surveys consistently show that many adults are not satisfied with their lives, and a significant number are essentially waiting for later to start living, waiting for retirement, waiting to settle down, waiting for the next milestone, waiting. Herein lies the problem. That later keeps moving. So let me ask you something. Are you living for your life right now? Or are you preparing to live it? Is there a part of you that feels like once the next thing happens, then you'll slow down, then you'll enjoy it, then you'll feel settled? I'll be honest with you. As a child of immigrants, I've watched my parents work incredibly hard to give me what I have right now. So much so that when I look at what they've done for me, I feel like I need to push harder. I need to sacrifice like they did to build, to create opportunities that didn't exist for me, for the next generation, because that's what they did for me, right? So even the idea of slowing down, of questioning that constant push for more, can sometimes feel like a betrayal. Like I'm letting go of something they worked so hard to give me. But I'm having to rework that a little bit. I'm having to ask, what does this constant sense of not enough, this postponing of living life now and contentment actually do to our health? Because it turns out it matters more than we think. So why does this matter? I'll touch on 3 ways this shows up. 3 ways this constant sense of not enough, this lack of contentment affects how we live and how we feel. First, it shapes how you care for yourself, your behavior, the way you eat, the way you sleep, how you move your body, and how you cope when life gets hard. When you feel more grounded in your life, when you have this sense of contentment, even if life is not perfect, you tend to take better care of yourself. I know it may not make sense, but there's clear research that shows that people who report higher levels of well-being, things like satisfaction or positive emotion, they are more likely over time to engage in healthier behaviors. They're more likely to be physically active. They're more likely to take good care of themselves and get better sleep. They're less likely to smoke, and they're more likely to build sustainable, healthy habits. This may be because they're not constantly operating from a place of depletion. They're not trying to fix themselves all the time. This changes everything. The second way this shows up is it sets your baseline. It shapes your stress. Because when you're constantly living in this state of not yet, not enough, almost there, your body never experiences rest. Even when you're technically resting, because mentally, emotionally, you're still pushing. Let me share an example with you. Several months ago, I slowed down to take a look at my sleep. I noticed I wasn't sleeping well. And so I tried to assess what type of pattern is happening here. I noticed that I had unsatisfactory sleep scores during the week, and they were much better over the weekend. Why is that? Stress. Even when I didn't have things to worry about, that habit of always feeling like something else needed to be achieved was keeping me up at night. Once I realized that, I changed my mindset. I'd write down things that needed to be done the next day so I wasn't wrestling with it at night. But most importantly, I reminded myself, I reminded my brain that everything was okay. I decided not to stress about tomorrow. Believe it or not, it helped. It made an observable difference with my Oura ring. Stress over time can become a pattern. It can become your baseline. Even when you don't truly have things to stress about, just think about it. We stress so much. And yet today, here you are, alive. You did okay despite everything that you worried about. Now, I want to be clear here. We don't have perfect evidence that contentment directly changes our biological markers, but it makes sense. What we do know is this: chronic stress, constant striving without pause, living in that internal pressure has real effects on your body over time. And when contentment is missing, that pressure doesn't turn off, it just becomes your normal baseline. The third way this shows up is in shaping how we experience life itself. You can build a life that looks full, successful, productive, even impressive, and still feel like you're behind, still feel like you haven't arrived, still feel like something is missing. And that disconnect, that gap between what your life looks like and what it feels like, that's where people are living. That's where a lot of people are right now. When we look at research on well-being and longevity, there is a consistent association. People who report higher levels of well-being, not just momentary happiness, but a more sustained sense of life satisfaction, they tend to have a lower mortality risk over time. Simply put, they live longer. Now, a good part of that is explained by good health and behavior, but that doesn't account for all of it. And so we shouldn't dismiss that. Longevity aside, we should still be asking ourselves, what kind of life are we actually living where we are here and right now? Not just how long is it that my life is going to be, but how does my life that I'm living right now actually feel? Now to my favorite part of each episode. So what do we do with this? I don't want this to be one of those conversations that just makes you reflect and then you go right back to the same pace of life. I want you to actually change how you move through your days. So I'll keep it simple. I'll give you 3 things. I know, I love 3 things. 3 things you can start doing right now to live a more content and fuller life. First, notice where you keep moving the finish line. I'm going to become a doctor, then I'm going to be happy. You become the doctor, then I'm going to make $300,000 a year, then I'll be happy. Then, no, wait, I want to become head of the hospital, then I'll settle down in contentment. And on and on and on, you keep moving that goalpost. Now, instead of remaining in this vicious cycle, start paying attention to where you keep telling yourself, I'll feel better when. Because for a lot of us, the finish line keeps moving. And if you don't notice that, you can spend years chasing a version of life that never actually arrives. So this week, I want you to observe without judgment, just awareness. Remember, awareness is the first step to habit change. If you haven't already, I want you to check out episode number 41, Awareness, the Foundation of Change. It's going to make a huge difference for you. Here's the second thing you can start doing right now. Create one moment each day where nothing needs to be fixed, nothing needs to be improved, nothing needs to be optimized. No multitasking, no productivity attached to it. It could be 5 minutes. 5 minutes of sitting with your coffee, 5 minutes of driving without filling up the space or filling it up with music or anything else, being present with someone that you love, simply enjoying the gift of life. Like, wow, I'm actually here. The other day while I was prepping a patient for a procedure, they had their headsets in and they were watching something on their phone. I couldn't really hear what they were looking at or see what they were watching, but it must have been funny because every few minutes they would laugh or chuckle. And I started laughing silently to myself. And in that moment, I experienced gratitude and contentment and joy. I was so grateful for the experience of laughter, this gift of enjoyment of life. The simple and uncelebrated things, those things in life matter. Life is now. Let's be in the moment and be happy for it. Because if every moment of our life is in service of the next, you miss the one we're in now. Number 3, let something in your life be enough today. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be complete, just enough. Contentment doesn't come from everything being exactly the way you want it to be. It comes from your ability to stop and recognize when something is already good. Again, I didn't say perfect. Good. Remember, perfection does not exist. If you chase perfection, we'll never arrive. I know this can be hard. I'm a fellow human navigating life with you. We're used to striving, we're used to building, we're used to pushing forward. Oh, and don't get me started on how social media and seeing how everyone else's success, be it real or curated from, for the gram, plays a huge role in how we feel. Comparison steals contentment. Now, I'm not saying that you should lose your ambition. Ambition is good, and I have plenty of it. I'm just saying stop postponing your life. The one that you're living now today matters. Your life right now with all its imperfections is beautiful today, so see that now. Because at the end of our lives, we won't wish we optimized more. We won't wish we produced more. We'll wish we were there for what mattered most. And I'm going to let you reflect on that. What does that mean for you? Now to another favorite part of the episode for me, making it practical. This week, we're not adding more to our plates. We're just creating space. Your goal this week is simple. Find one moment, just one moment, where you sit down without distraction and reflect on your life. That's it. Let's make it a SMART goal. I want to come back, not just reflecting on your life, but what matters to you and what you want to start doing now. So back to SMART goal. Specific. We're setting aside one intentional moment to reflect. Measurable. Just one time this week, just once. Achievable. This can be 5 minutes, 10 minutes. It doesn't have to be anything big. It doesn't have to be anything long. Relevant. Because if you don't pause to look at your life, you can keep moving in a direction that doesn't align with your vision. And this opposes our goal to live a healthier and fuller life. Time-bound. Choose when it's going to happen. Let's not leave it up to chance. Schedule it. When you sit down, I want you to ask yourself a few simple questions. Am I living the life I want to live right now? Or am I preparing to live for it later? Am I living the life I want right now? Or am I preparing to live it later? Where in my life do I keep moving the finish line? And what in this season is already enough? What have I not allowed myself to see? Of course, you don't have to have all the answers, but you do have to give yourself the space and the time to ask those very important questions. That's all, folks. If this episode made you pause even for a moment, I'd love to hear from you. What came up for you? Was there one area in your life where you realized you've been waiting to start living? If so, please share it with me, whether it's on Instagram at Fuller Living Coaching or at sarah.ashitey_MD, or right here in the comments, wherever you're streaming, whichever platform you're on, whether it's Spotify, Apple, or YouTube. These conversations are not meant to end here. And if you know someone who's been working hard, doing everything right, but might be missing the life they're actually building, send this to them, please. Sometimes it takes a moment like this to shift how someone sees everything. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to this episode or please subscribe to this podcast. See, I'm still new to this, but I don't have to be perfect. So subscribe to the podcast, whether it's Apple, Spotify, YouTube, so you don't miss the next conversation. I appreciate all your reviews as it helps others find this podcast. So don't forget to leave your 5-star review right now. But before I go, I want to leave you with this. At the end of it all, your life won't be about the goals you reached. It will be about the moments you were present for. Until next time, let's get to fuller living. Well, fam, that wraps up another episode of Fuller Living, where we talk about health in a bite-sized, relatable, practical, and fun way. Remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about making progress one small step at a time while remaining consistent. If you found this episode helpful, please subscribe share it with a friend who might need a little bit of inspiration, and leave me your 5-star review. And if you're in Dallas and looking for a new PCP, look me up at southwestfamilymed.com. I can't wait to meet you. Until next time, let's get to fuller living.